And so there's like a delayed effect when it comes to recovery, especially in the beginning. And so with a big tanker like this, think about that like the size of the problem you're dealing with. Think of it like you're trying to turn the ship around. And in your case, the ship is your mindset. Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Miguel here from CFS Recovery. I'm out here at a new location, still by the water. Of course, we love nature here. But this is Kitsilano Beach in Vancouver, BC. So as you can see, there's some tanker ships out here. Some big giant ships, and that has a lot to do with the analogy I want to share with you guys today. And that is, in the beginning, when you're trying to recover, it's going to be like trying to turn around a giant ship. What does that mean? That means you're going to get a lot of pushback. You're going to get a lot of resistance from your body, because when you try to reroute your thoughts, redirect your thinking, deal with symptoms, implement new patterns and habits in your life, your body is not going to want to change. Especially the longer you've been doing something, the more your body won't want to change. The more your body will push against you. And that is completely normal. So this message is for those people out there who are trying to do their best and they're not seeing any results. So there could be two things that's going on here. One, what you're doing might not be the right thing for you right now at your stage in your recovery. Or number two, you just haven't been doing it long enough and you haven't been sticking to it. Or every time you try to do something, you give up after like 1 or 2 weeks and you move to something else. And so what I want to make very clear to you guys, and just really simplify for you guys, is that you won't see results right away. Typically, that's how it works. Just like anything in life, in order to get something, you have to do a certain thing, but there is a window of time before you achieve that certain thing. Maybe you want to get a certain job. You have to go apply for the interview. Even when you get hired, there's still that waiting period where you can actually start working, right? Or maybe when you exercise or try working out. When you lift weights and you're sore the next day, you don't just all of a sudden feel better. You don't all of a sudden have more muscle. It takes time for that muscle to actually grow. And so there's like a delayed effect when it comes to recovery, especially in the beginning. And so with a big tanker like this, think about that like the size of the problem you're dealing with. Think of it like you're trying to turn the ship around. And in your case, the ship is your mindset, your mind shift, your mind that always goes down a certain route of worry and doubt and negativity. You're actually trying to reroute those thoughts and think in a different way. Think more positive, think in a more hopeful, inspiring way. And it's really hard because, you'll try to do that, but your mind will always revert back to these negative thinking patterns or these doubts. And I just want you to know right now that that's perfectly normal. That's okay. Like, you don't have to beat yourself up for it, because I went through that quite a bit. And what I realized is that, change actually does take time. It's like trying to turn around a ship. So think of it, when you try to turn around a ship, let's say it was closer to shore, right? And everyone was able to stand around a ship. When you first try pushing it, it's not gonna move at all. It's not even gonna budge. It's not gonna move in a millimeter. So you're gonna try pushing and pushing and pushing, but eventually it will get to a point, like if you're strong enough and if the ship is a little bit smaller, or if you have enough people, eventually that ship will budge and it'll slowly start to creep. It'll turn like 1 millimeter, then 10 centimeters, then a foot. And before you know it, the momentum is actually on your side and the ship starts to turn on its own because of the momentum. But in the beginning, it felt almost impossible because everybody was pushing so hard and it wasn't even moving at all, or it was moving just a tiny bit. And the same thing goes for recovery. Like, there will be a lot of effort that you put in the beginning that you won't see immediate results from. And the crazy thing is, once you start seeing results and it starts moving in the right direction, you need to keep doing what you're doing. You need to keep up those good habits and those brain rethinking patterns and that brain retraining and redirecting those thoughts. It's not something you just stop and like your mind just shifts on its own. Yeah, it will get to a point where there's enough momentum in your mind. For me, it took several months. I mean, it was a lot easier for me to shut down those negative thoughts right in the beginning, but then of course they always crept back. I would feel like every time my body would adjust and start to feel symptoms, I would have that doubt creeping in. I'm like, am I going backwards? Is this the beginning of the end? and I would pretty much just swat those thoughts away immediately. There was a lot of emphasis on trying to change in the beginning, and that's where most of the efforts were. Of course, after that, like, you're still putting your best foot forward trying to do stuff, but you don't have to focus solely on just recovery. You can actually start going out living your life. You can go for walks, you can interact with people, and that voice will come up, especially when you're expanding activities and trying to do new things. It will come up. But the difference now is that you don't have to work as hard to silence those voices. So just think about it that way. That's why it's so hard to see results in the beginning, because it's literally like turning a ship around. And when people are sick and dealing with certain things, depending on the duration of your illness, how long you've been dealing with it for, or the intensity of it, how intense were those feelings and those symptoms and those emotions, those things will determine the size of the ship that you're trying to turn, right? So if it's a problem that you've only had for maybe a year or 6 months or 2 years even, it's going to be a smaller ship, a smaller obstacle, a smaller challenge than something that you've been dealing with for like 10 years, right? Doesn't mean it's completely impossible. It just means that it takes a little bit more work than someone who hasn't had it for that long. So the duration and intensity will determine the level of effort needed to get out of recovery. So for some people, they didn't have it as intense. Some people were never bedridden. They were just housebound, but they've had it for like 10, 15 years. And so, you know, that's probably equivalent to someone who had it for 4 years, like me, and was actually bedridden for probably a year of that, right? Just the intensity of it. And so another analogy I like to think of, if the cruise ship doesn't completely make sense, so let's say someone rolled a boulder at you and your job was to stop it in its tracks and roll it back in his direction. That boulder, it's coming at you. It has all this momentum rolling towards you. So you standing there, you have to kind of like brace yourself. You have to stop it from rolling, stop all that momentum, make it come to a complete stop, and then actually push it back. You actually have to change the direction. So imagine how much effort that takes versus if you were just to, you know, say the boulder's rolling here, you just like kind of step back and it just rolls by you. That's the easiest way to do it. That's the easiest thing, is to just be passive and just move out of the way and let it do its thing. The hard part is when you actively say, I want to push that boulder in the other direction. You stop it, stop the momentum, start to slowly push it in the other direction and actually get it to gain momentum in the other direction. That's kind of like how it is with the Mindshift. You're gonna have to stop it right in its tracks and pretty much go against the grain. You're gonna have to make it do something it doesn't want to naturally do. And that's why it takes so much effort. So when you're trying a new strategy, when you're trying this brain retraining, when you're trying to implement new habits, don't be alarmed, don't be shocked, don't be surprised or upset or disappointed that you're not seeing results right away. Because things are happening that you just don't see at the surface. Like, things are moving. Progress is being made that you just can't see right now, but things will start to move in the right direction. And that's why for people who are trying the brain retraining, who are trying to shut down the thoughts, who are really putting their best foot forward and not seeing anything happen and they feel like they're stagnant, this is kind of the perfect analogy that puts things in perspective to make you understand what's going on. That it's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's not that, you know, it might not be working. It might be that, you know, you haven't been sticking to it long enough. And especially for the brain retraining, that's where I see most people stop doing it too soon because they don't see any results. Usually you have to do it for at least a couple of weeks for it to see lasting change. So if that's a situation you're in, like you're trying to implement all these things I've been teaching, then don't be alarmed. It's completely normal. Things will start to move in the right direction if you just keep at it. And if you need any extra help, then definitely join our private Facebook group, our community of thrivers. We're not survivors. We're not people who just want to get through this thing and get back to living a regular life. No, we want to use this as a springboard to rebuild this life that is so much better in a life of thriving health. And honestly, the things that you learn through this journey, you're going to be able to move forward with it and actually live an even better life because of it, from the lessons you learn now. So click the link in the description below and join the Facebook group, because we, every now and then we do some live Q&As. Make sure you go join us, join a community of thrivers, join a community of people who want to better their lives and they're tired of living with chronic pain and tired of suffering. tired of living with constraint and they're ready to do something about it. And if you aren't subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, comment anything down below, any other topics you want me to talk about. So I will see you in the next video, but before I see you on YouTube, I'm gonna see you in the private Facebook group when you click the link down below. And just remember, you are just one mind shift away of living a life with thriving health. See you guys next time.